Hi guys, Heru Horus, the Sky God Pharaoh, and today we're going to be reacting to Meg Griffin's prison sentence. Oh yes, I'm going to guess it's going to be somewhere around 4,000 years.
Meg, the innocent, unfortunate punching bag. Or is she? Well, let me tell you, she may be no Stewie, but the forgotten Griffin is anything but harmless.
My house now,
So today, I'm ranking Meg's crimes from community service tier to lock her up and throw away the key tier. And we're starting off strong with the time the Griffin family tried their hands at the oldest profession in the book. As usual, things get weird. When Chris gets expelled from public school and shipped off to an expensive private academy, the family scrambles to come up with the cash to cover his tuition.
You got an extra job just to put me through school?
We all did, Chris. Meg and I have been working nights.
I gotta say, their solution is equal parts absurd and horrifying. Although somehow I imagine Peter pulling off the profession better than Meg.
Hey, looking for a good time, sweet cheek?
Oh my God.
Peter, get in the car.
Okay, but it'll cost you. It's eerie, isn't it? Like looking into the future.
Dang, Stewie's prediction was pretty spot on. You know what would be really crazy, though? If Meg actually got any customers.
I'll take the one on the right.
Well, once again, Meg, I'll be back in an hour.
Of course, Lois gets picked up pretty quickly because, duh. Meanwhile, poor Meg is left standing alone, which, let's be fair, is hardly surprising. Now, whether Meg got any business or not don't matter. She's still going to jail for at least 6 months and paying a $1,000 fine. Like most teenage girls, Meg is willing to...
Wow, 6 months for prostitution, guys. Can you imagine that? That actually sounds quite reasonable.
do a lot to get her hands on shiny new fashion. But how many teenagers are willing to fraudulently exploit their infant brother for a designer purse? And it's all thanks to some good old peer pressure.
I love the color of your Prada bag. Hey, Meg, you want to come to lunch? Oh, you know
What? There's no room in my car for your big ugly purse.
It can't be fashionable without taking a few risks, right? Well, Meg sure thinks so, especially when her job hunting isn't exactly panning out.
No thanks. Oh, nuts. Young lady, what's the little guy's name? I can't send an unwed teenage mother out on the street without a job.
Stewie. My son's name is Stewie.
To be fair, she did try getting the job the honest way at first. Eventually, what started as a part-time job, gotten under false pretenses, turns into a total con job.
What a precious little boy. That's my son. But you're just a baby yourself. Henry, give the little skank a nice tip. $20.
She's clearly getting some extra change off this grift, so she doubles down, turning Stewie into her money-making machine. Stewie, on the other hand, couldn't care less, as long as he's fed a lifetime supply of delicious pancakes.
Here, honey.
What's this? Blueberries. Oh my God. Oh, that's better than...
If the pancakes are that good, I reckon it's not a bad deal, actually. Either way, the grift falls apart when a concerned social worker overhears Meg's lies and immediately calls in the cavalry.
Hi, little fella. Is Meg Griffin here?
No, she's not.
Probably outscoring more rock. Sandy Belfort, Child Services. We're placing this baby in a foster home.
What follows is absolute chaos. Stewie gets taken away, Lois is confused as hell, and Peter is exactly as helpful as he always is. Well, because Meg wanted to score tips to buy a purse. A purse, people.
A woman from Child Services came and took Stewie. She said we fed him dog food.
Dog food, huh?
Meg, is that a real Prada bag?
I guess the devil really does wear Prada. This kind of stunt would land Meg with at least 9 counts of fraud, meaning 9 years in prison with a $9,000 fine. It's a pity she's not going to be able to rock her Prada bag on the inside. A rap sheet is never complete without a little theft mixed in there. In the episode The Heartbreak Dog, Meg and Chris go full-on Bonnie and Clyde, but instead of robbing banks, they're targeting a local nursing home. Hey, why steal from people who can actually chase you back when you can raid an old lady's drawer?
I'm Meg, your new student volunteer.
Oh, you must be my new student volunteer.
I just said that.
I guess it's hard to feel guilty when the old lady in question is the opposite of a bag of laughs. Granny does not pull her punches, like, at all.
You strike me as someone who's never going to get married, that's for sure. Now get me my itch cream.
And cue the petty revenge. Meg spots a shiny brooch in one woman's drawer, and the wheels in her head start a-turning. Why just tolerate mean old people when you can rob them?
Here's Here's your cream. See you Thursday.
And you'd think she'd stop there, but nope. Meg catches the thieving eye. You know the one I'm talking about, and goes on a mini crime spree until Chris stumbles in on her escapades.
Hey, what's all this stuff?
Stuff I stole from the old folks' home, but you should see how they treat me.
Meg, that's no excuse. Oh my God, is that someone else's glasses? This is awesome.
Really? That's what's good in the streets, homeboy. You take somebody else's glasses and you're in on stealing too? How are you such a crooked ass nizzle? How you have to be such a crooked ass nizzle? I know crooked ass nizzles come in all shapes and sizes, but all over a pair of glasses?
I'm in.
For a brief moment, you also think, finally. You know the one I'm talking about, and goes on a mini crime spree until Chris stumbles in on her escapades.
Hey, what's all this stuff?
Stuff I stole from the old folks' home, but you should see how they treat me.
Meg, that's no excuse. Oh my God, is that someone else's glasses? This is awesome. I want in.
For a brief moment, you also think, finally, the voice of reason. But bro's just looking to cash in too. Griffins in a nutshell. Before long, the sibling duo are sneaking into rooms, snatching every shiny, valuable thing in sight. Watches, necklaces, knickknacks. For a moment, the siblings are living the high life, but the guilt eventually starts to creep.
Yeah, it's easy like that. When I put it down, don't play around.
Ben, and it's not hard to imagine why. I mean, it's hard to flex when your stolen goods smell like Ben Gay and menthol rub. They decide to return everything, thinking this noble act will erase their crimes. Spoiler alert, it doesn't.
Okay, we ditched the stuff in the day room, and then I'm done with my volunteer hours, and we never come back here again.
Look at you two, stealing from the elderly.
Listen, we're very sorry we stole from you, but you have it all back now, so we cool, right?
No, Meg, that's not how stealing works. You don't just go return the stuff and go off scot-free. Let's face it, getting to do extra boring chores for the elderly is not punishment enough for Chris and Meg. Realistically, they'd be looking at 10 years in prison and fines of up to $10,000. Meg's prone to carelessly falling in love, but she takes things to another
10 years? That sounds reasonable.
creepy level on Halloween. And no, I'm not talking about romance with a monster or anything like that. I'm talking about 7 minutes in heaven with your blood brother. Meg is getting ready for her first high school Halloween party with her girlfriend, so there's a lot to be excited about.
I'm going to my first big high school Halloween party.
That's nice. What are you dressed as?
I'm a slutty cat. I'll be back late. Don't wait up.
Clearly, they don't have much going for them in looks, so they've decided the best way to score some action is by wearing masks.
My cousin went to a Halloween party and made out with a guy, and she's hideous. How'd your cousin do it? She wore a mask. If we wear our masks and we don't take them off for the whole party, we'll have a better chance of hooking up. I think we look hot. Totally hot.
Ugly bitches.
I'll admit their plan is actually kind of clever. A+ for street smarts. So the master plan got them into the party easily enough, and they even got invited to play Spin the Bottle. It's all fun and games until it's her turn, and the bottle points to some rando in an Optimus Prime costume. I don't know about Scarlett Johansson, but you know what? I guess a mask does cover a lot. Anyway, not that Optimus Prime here seemed to care, because they were going at it way longer than 7 minutes. Long enough for a crowd to gather by the door ready to burst it open. But what they saw inside that closet, they could not unsee.
You guys. Oh my God. Chris?
Meg?
Oh, we did so much!
I honestly doubt the planet has enough bleach to cleanse that sight from my memories, or the kids who had to see it firsthand. You know what? I don't want to know. Okay, I kind of want to know. It can't be just me, right? Clearly, everyone's been thinking about how close the Griffin siblings have always been. Like that one time they were caught almost kissing, or that time they had a bath together.
Chris, our bath is ready.
I don't know what to do now.
This time, they took it much further. For something this heinous, Meg would be in so much trouble she'd think twice about ever kissing a guy ever again. Incest is pretty up there on the list of serious criminal offenses in most states. Penalties may vary, but Meg could be looking at about 10 years behind bars and a fine of $10,000. Quick question, would you watch a corno with Meg in it? Have you already? Well, no matter what you think or have done, that did not stop her from making one. It all started when a new bully transferred to Meg's school. You know, the kind of bully you just want to avoid like the plague. But Meg's luck is so frickin' bad, she ticks him off in the worst way possible. Is an understatement for sure, and I can't blame the bully. Do you know how hard it is to get stains out of denim? So Meg is forced into a future indefinitely one-sided butt kicking, and she comes up with a drastic way to get out of the fight.
I figured out how to get out of this fight. All I have to do is get expelled. That tape I released should be everywhere by now.
You gotta give it to her, though. Getting expelled is some outside-of-the-box thinking. Keep your clothes on! And for the life of me, I can't figure out what's more obscene, like abusing a couple of innocent sausages or her first and hopefully only viewer. Does Stewie count as a viewer? He's a maniacal baby. I sure hope not. Would it shock you to hear that the Federal Communications Commission had major issues with Meg's escapades in this episode? And for good reason as well. Bad underage corn is still underage corn. And Meg's likely to face 15 years in prison. This is one criminal record you definitely don't want to have. If anyone's gonna go down...
I'm all against watching porn, but 15 years? Okay, that does sound reasonable. But let's be reasonable here. That's going to be 15 minutes of your life rotting in hell. 15 years of your life. Wouldn't wish that on my worst enemies.
For blackmailing, you'd think it'd be Stewie, right? Well, turns out Meg is a lot more devious than she looks. When she catches Chris swiping money from their mom's purse, Meg becomes the worst sister ever.
I won't tell Mom and Dad about the money if you promise to do whatever I say. I mean it, Chris.
Okay, I'll do whatever you want.
At first, Meg's demands are pretty tame, making Chris do her homework, clean her room, sibling stuff. But soon her requests take a pretty weird turn.
Now you have to watch An Officer and a Gentleman with me. At the end, when Richard Gere carries Deborah Winger out of the paper mill.
That's gonna be you someday, Meg.
I know it will.
Yeah, disturbing as that was, believe it or not, it got worse. Downright devious.
I stood outside Planned Parenthood for 36 hours, and here are the pictures of every girl in your class who went in.
Now I want you to call them as if you're their dead baby.
What do you think she wanted with those photos? Probably more people to blackmail? And she probably would have gotten away with it too if that meddling Chris hadn't pulled a runaway from home stunt. If Meg had played her cards right, she could have climbed the social ranking at school with the dirt that she had on everyone. Too bad the law is not so big on blackmail. She'd be looking at up to 15 years in prison and a fine.
What you waiting for? Come up, go down. Come up, go down.
$25,000. And making her brother spy on people borders on criminal stalking, which is an extra 5 years in prison. When you're as not so easy on the eyes as Meg, love can be quite difficult to find. So it makes sense why she'd latch on to just about anyone that shows her a sliver of affection. And her next victim of unrequited love is...
Drop it, creepo. Freezerino, Paul Sorvino.
Yep, Joe Swanson. Must be real slim pickings and quahog, huh? It all starts innocently enough with Meg stopping by to check in on Joe and baby Susie while Bonnie's out of town. Joe, being Joe, shows Meg the kind of basic human decency that she's never received from her family, but for Meg, bless her lonely soul, somehow that's translated to them being soulmates.
I don't mind being seen with you.
You don't?
Of course not.
Wow.
Hey, who's that? Your boyfriend? Haha.
Yeah, that's my boyfriend.
Can anyone really be this Yes, a lot of people can be this delulu, myself included. Meg definitely can as well, because she kicks things up a notch. If she's gonna catch herself a Swanson, she's gotta dress the part, right?
What's with the getup?
I just wanted to look sexy for Susie. How are your eggs, Joe? If he doesn't say anything about me calling him Joe, that means we're truly in love.
They're delicious, Meg. Thanks.
You're welcome, Joe.
I should have said something.
Absolutely stunning mental gymnastics there, Meg. Can we get an instant replay? Anyway, they're totally married in her head now, so she pushes her crazy up one more notch.
Hi, honey.
Is that Bonnie's dress?
Oh, yeah. Susie spit up on me, and I didn't want to go all the way home, so I just threw this on. I hope that's okay.
If there was one thing Meg didn't count on, it was the original Mrs. Swanson coming back for some reason. Determined to keep Bonnie out of the picture, though, Meg does something so dastardly it would make Stewie proud.
Ma'am, is this your bag? Ma'am, this bag contains a concealed weapon. I'm gonna have to place you under arrest.
You gotta appreciate the tenacity, though. Meg basically traveled all the way to Maine by road just to plant a gun in Bonnie's luggage. With Bonnie conveniently out of the way and rotting in an airport jail, Meg doesn't waste a single second becoming the new Mrs. Swanson.
They have those things?
That very night, she takes her crazy off the deep end, and viewers' discretion most certainly advised.
Oh, great. Now you've upset the baby.
Oh, God! Oh!
Poor baby Susie had to be the one to suffer the trauma. The 20 years Meg could be facing behind bars for framing Bonnie does not seem nearly enough. Justice for baby Susie. So far, things are looking pretty grim for Meg Griffin. She's already waist-deep in crimes and looking at 79 years and 6 months in prison, not to mention her whopping $55,000 in fines, all before she's even left high school. And here's the thing, guys. She's committed way more twisted crimes than these. Yeah, it only gets worse for the criminal teen here. I will not accept enough dog slander in this house. There's no arguing that dogs are man's best friend. But are they women's best friend as well? Well, we find out in the episode of Barely Legal, great title, by the way, where Meg decided to take puppy love way too literally and ended up stalking Brian. So it's prom season and everyone's getting ready to get their dance on, except for Meg, for obvious reasons. No one wants to go with her.
Hi, Jimmy. I heard you didn't have a date to the dance, and I was wondering if you'd like to go with me.
Hang on. I'd love to go, Meg, but I have to go to my little brother's funeral that night.
Yikes, that's just cold. I'm not just talking about the murder. Anyway, Brian, bless his unfortunate heart, agrees to go to the dance with Meg out of pity. Well, agrees is a bit of a stretch, to be honest, but anyway. Now to Meg, this isn't just prom night to her. It's the beginning of her very own rom-com. One that Brian couldn't wait to be over.
Yes, she is. Brian, I present to you your polished turd for the evening.
How do I look, Brian?
You sure do, Meg.
Poor dude's just trying his best to make it through the night. Meanwhile, Meg is living her dream date moment with a level of intensity that could set off a fire alarm. What follows are some pretty cringe attempts at romance from Meg. She even goes as far as introducing Brian as her boyfriend to all of her friends, and that's when he decides enough is enough.
You and I are friends, and that's the way it needs to stay. Besides, I have a girlfriend. I'm dating Jillian.
I understand.
Good.
Good on you for setting boundaries, Brian. Not your fault Meg goes crazy, and I do mean crazy. Things turn stalkery real quick. Oh, but dear viewer, it is not in there at all. She kidnaps Brian, claiming it's the only way to make them see how perfect they are for each other.
Are you ready?
For what?
We're gonna have fun tonight.
Listen, Meg, I'm not gonna lie to you here. I'm a little uncomfortable.
Talk about desperate. Thankfully, before she could scar Brian and in turn everyone in the audience for life, the cops show up. What she got in the end was a good talking to, not even close to a slap on the wrist. But realistically, that's a hot 10K in fines or 5 years in prison. Even both. And for kidnapping Brian, that's another 20 years and a 10K fine on top of that. No dog is worth that amount of jail time, especially Brian. If you guessed the next crime on the list was gonna be because of Meg's sad, misguided love life, then you got.
Has anyone else stopped watching YouTube because of all the ads? Believe it or not, I was in the exact same position as you. YouTube and Twitch used to be my happy place. I just wanted to relax and unwind, but would always be bombarded with tons of ads. It was so frustrating and overwhelming.
Guessed correctly. As per usual, Meg's love life goes from, let's say, awkward to non-existent to outright illegal when she falls for the wrong guy. And by wrong guy, I mean a literal convict. Well, at least she finally found someone that actually likes her. Go Meg! 3 years quickly turns to 3 hours because Luke escapes prison and shows up at Meg's window. Now, most people would immediately call the cops here and let the authorities handle the situation, but not the Megster. No, she decides to hide Luke in her room because nothing says forever in love like risking federal charges for a guy whose last name you don't know.
Get in here before somebody sees you.
Oh, Meg, I've wanted to do that for so long. And it's nice to be in front of someone for a change.
I gotta love that prison humor. It doesn't take too long for the grown man hiding in her room to get found, but Meg is in love and refuses to turn him in. For someone who just pulled a Thai lung and escaped a prison full of guards, Luke couldn't do much against a single policeman in a wheelchair. Just saying. Anyway, Meg's actions could land her in some serious hot water. I'm talking about felony type of hot water. She's looking at 5 years in prison and a fine of $1,000. But here's the lovely part. For once, Meg doesn't just get a slap on the wrist in the usual Family Guy fashion. Oh no, instead, it's time for her to face the music.
You're under arrest for harboring an escaped convict.
That's only fair because after all, I did hide him from the... What?
Justice 1, Meg 0. Believe it or not, Meg's next crime comes right after she's released from prison. She comes back home after 3 months with a complete personality overhaul. Guess it's true what they say. Being on the inside really changes a person.
I'm home. You're all my b****s now.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
Gone is the awkward teenager we all know and sometimes pity. Instead, we get Prison Meg, a no-nonsense, hard-hitting, absolute tyrant, and my favorite character in the show, personally. At school, it's the same story. Meg isn't just feared, she's untouchable. She doesn't hesitate to smash teeth in or dish out brutal threats to anyone who so much as looks at her funny. Apparently, one of her old bullies didn't get the memo, though.
Hey, Meg, are you gonna take those soda cans to the Shaw Skank Redemption Center?
Nah, those kids had it coming. You don't roll up on a juvie ex-con like that and not get canned. Meg decides she's done with her family and school. If she's gonna be the worst she can ever be, she needs to skip town. Needless to say, her methods of doing so are very extreme. But before she skips town to China, she needed some cash, and heaven forbid she makes some honest, hard-working, living.
Can I help you?
Hands in the air, Goldman. Give me your money.
Just take this jar for the leukemia kids. I don't give it to them anyhow.
Being a business owner is never easy these days, what with the economy and being held up by tattooed teenagers and all that. Good thing Brian was there to talk her out of it. Assaulting and battering your family and schoolmates is obviously a criminal offense, and it carries up to 1 year in jail and a $1,000 fine. Multiply that by 5 kids and 1 Peter, and we've got 6 years and $6K. Armed robbery, on the other hand, would net her another 30 years behind bars. And let's not forget that she's the new boss of the household now. While Peter and Lois are clearly too scared to press charges, her constant use of threats and intimidation could land her with domestic violence charges, extending her prison time by another year. With Meg's, turbulent love life, it was only a matter of time before her questionable decisions pushed her beyond cringeworthy to legally and morally horrifying. Meg falls head over heels for Kent this time, the dreamy new jock at school. What else is new?
There he is. The reason my bedpost is so shiny.
Just ask him out already. The worst that could happen is he says no.
Of course he'll say no.
Don't be fooled, kids. There are far worse things than being told no. But Meg doesn't seem to mind, not when she's already having weird fantasies about the poor boy.
Kent, what are we gonna do? With the Earth destroyed, we're the only 2 humans left.
It looks like we need to start repopulating.
I think she's choking. Should we wake her up?
Holy frick, what is it with this girl and abusing sausages? Meg finally musters the courage to ask him out, and he agrees. I know, I was shocked too. You think I'm lying, see for yourself. I was starting to think Kent might be a bit of a freak, but then things take an unfortunate turn.
That was fun. We should hang out again sometime.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Oh my God, I thought you
I
wanted...
didn't think this was a date.
Oh my God!
Massive oof moment. Turns out Kent was hanging out with her to get to someone else. Yup, he's into Chris. Not entirely sure if that's an upgrade or not. Now, we all know Meg isn't one to take no for an answer, especially in the matters of the heart, so you can probably already guess where this is going.
I've been going to high school with him for 3 years, and I always assumed he was straight.
He's probably still figuring things out. Hang in there.
I'll help him figure out that he's straight.
Now, a normal person might cut their losses, cry into a pint of ice cream, and move on, but not Meg. She's all that ice cream. Instead, she devises a truly unhinged plan of cringe proportions. Would you believe me if I said Chris was not into this plan at all?
Chris, please just sleep with Kent and then tell me all about it.
Forget it, Meg. I'm not Derek Jeter. I like girls.
So Meg devised some other means of getting him to see things her way. Her weapon of choice? Knockout drugs, aka roofies, aka don't try this at home drugs. And there's just one person who'd have enough stock to put half of Quahog to bed.
Hi, Mr. Quagmire. I was wondering if I could borrow some roofies?
Oh, sure. Just a sec. Pretty big pill for such a little girl.
Yeah, I know. But I asked someone to do me a favor, and they're not too keen on doing it.
Seeing anyone special these days?
Hey, obviously, right?
Right, of course, yeah. Good luck with everything, and call me if you get arrested.
He's very evil. So if you haven't figured it out by now, Meg's brilliant idea was to spike her own brother's drink and let Kent have his way with him. A snooze juicer, huh? Weird, but who am I to kink shame? So much shame for what she's about to do here, so much shame. Luckily, Meg has one of her rare moments of self-awareness, and she realizes just how insane her plan is. Oh, did ya? She pulls the plug before it could actually happen, which honestly is the bare minimum here. And even she knows that she's hit rock bottom.
I was kind of gonna roofie you.
What is wrong with you?
I lied when I told you that Chris wanted to sleep with you.
I don't need your apologies. I can see now that you're a complete psycho.
Attempting to spike someone's drink, even if the plan was never carried out, is considered a serious crime. Meg could face charges for attempting to commit sexual assault, which carries up to 20 years in prison. Meg's life is anything but good on a normal day, and it gets even worse after contracting a serious case of mumps. On the bright side, it buys her a few days off of school. On the downside, she gets to stay with her sucky family.
Well, Meg has the mumps all right. How is it she was never immunized?
Well, it was 1992, and I couldn't be bothered with anything that didn't involve Dan Cortez.
Well, at least she gets a TV in her room. And as usual, I spoke too soon. A TV with only one channel is worse than no TV. Except when Meg discovers this one channel.
Finally.
Up next, Kirk Cameron
Ooh.
to talk about God.
Ow. I'm gonna tell you why God will always be there for you.
No thanks.
Are you lonely, unappreciated, not totally happy with your physical appearance?
Go on.
So Meg's stuck in a bed with the TV with just the religion channel, and cue her discovering Jesus. At first, it seems like a harmless phase, but this isn't just some spiritual awakening. When Meg finds out that Brian is an atheist, she outs him to the entire town, and Quahog quickly turns into an evangelical mob, ready to cast the first stone at Brian for not believing in God. Trashing his car may have seemed bad, but the real damage comes when the liquor stores ban Brian for being a pagan. Feeling isolated and severely alcohol deprived, Brian decides to make peace with Meg. What's a few hallelujahs and amens if it means he gets to drown himself in alcohol?
Thanks for setting everyone straight, Meg. I feel the warm, healing, liquid presence of God's genuine, cold-filtered grace.
Unfortunately for Brian, this is Meg we're talking about, and she tends to take things a little bit too far. Yep, she takes him to a good old-fashioned book burning because nothing screams spiritual enlightenment than destroying literature. By the end of the episode, Brian makes her see the light in a different sense, and she moves on. Good luck moving on from this arson charge, though. Arson's a pretty serious crime in Rhode Island, and she's looking up to 20 years in prison. We all knew it was a matter of time before sexual harassment came up on this long list of devious deeds Meg's committed. This crime starts with a sprinkle of Stockholm Syndrome, a lot of inappropriate behavior, and ends with a lawsuit. I don't mean to shame her, but
We need to grease her up so she doesn't get stuck. Everybody spit on Meg.
Stop! You got
the chaos begins when 3 burglars break into the Griffin house. Naturally, Peter is too chicken to take on all 3 at once, so they hole up in a bunker. But there's one teeny-weeny little problem.
These monitors are for watching the house. See this? Stewie's room, Chris's room.
Peter, there's no phone in here. How are we gonna call the police?
Oh my God, we're all gonna die!
Why would anyone build a bunker with no food or telephone, you ask? This is Peter Griffin we're talking about. Do you need an answer to that? That is the answer. So the family does the most logical thing. They send Meg down to danger to get help. After all, ugly equals expendable, right? Obviously, getting help should have been Meg's top priority, but hear me out here. You can't panic on an empty stomach. Anyway, the burglars capture Meg, hoping that they'd be able to lure out the rest of the family, and boy oh boy do they underestimate how useless of a hostage Meg is.
I think they're making a sign to tell us something.
We have your son.
Meg's our daughter.
As if being mistaken for a boy wasn't enough, Meg is abandoned by her family who'd rather die in the bunker than save their son. I mean, daughter. See, now I'm doing it. But here's the twist. Instead of being terrified like any normal person would, Meg takes this opportunity to shoot her shot.
She asked if we were gonna have our way with her. No sale.
Come on! I'm pretty!
Are you okay?
Yeah, I was so scared.
That guy might be a criminal, but I still feel for him. I wouldn't wish a Meg upon my... worst enemy. After her relentless, unwanted advances, the robbers file a sexual harassment charge against Meg. Yes, her hostage takers decide that they've had enough and want to take her to court. You know what? I bet the burglars turned themselves in just to get away from Meg. But what's alarming is Meg's family's reaction to her being arrested.
Help! Dad!
Have fun at the dance, Meg. I hope she does. That kid really deserves it.
Meg could be looking at 20 years and a fine of $10,000 if found guilty, which she definitely will, because I doubt her parents are going to bother getting a good lawyer at all. And now for the creme de la creme of crimes. This one's bad enough to send Meg away for life, spoiler alert. And it all started with a tweet. See, Brian resurrects his old Twitter account after who knows how many years of inactivity, but there's one problem. He has no idea how toxic and easy to offend the platform has become. Brian's tweet goes viral in the worst way. In a matter of minutes, an angry mob is waiting for him outside the theater. Worst part of all this is that the entire Griffin family suffers the consequences of Brian's tweet, and they soon become pariahs.
Hey, Kurt. Kurt, come on. It's me, Lunchtime Lois.
Brian was just making a joke.
I told you about Brian.
Come on, he deleted his tweet.
But here's where things get heated up. Meg and Chris, who were just trying to get some lunch in the cafeteria, get jumped by a mob of students looking to start some trouble. But Chris wasn't taking any disrespect from none of them. And that is where everything goes from zero to totally epic real quick. Meg and Chris might have been outnumbered, but that just means more souls for the underworld. They He decimated the entire mob of students in what is hands down the best action sequence in Family Guy history. It's chaotic. It's beautiful. It's a total mess. A frackin' masterpiece. By the time the dust settles, bodies are mangled, blood everywhere, hardly any appetite left for food at all. Now, you don't get to slaughter the entire school body and walk free. Big shocker, I know. We're looking at some serious prison time. The punishment for murder is life, and the possibility of parole is after 30 years. And looking at all those bodies, I'd say killing all her schoolmates will net Meg 600 years behind bars for mass murder. Add that to the rest of her sentence, and Meg Griffin is looking at fines of up to $92,000 and a total prison sentence of 806 years and 6 months. You know, for someone who's supposed to be the least evil in the family, supposedly, that's a lot of time in prison. But hey, if you think that's crazy, just click on this video and brace yourself.
How much money do you think you've earned just today?
I've earned about 150.
150 just today. All right, so how much money do you think is coming to your bank account today?
Like $300.
All right, all right. That's it for this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.